body positivity killing us. And the general definition of body positivity is that you love your body no matter what shape or size you are. So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you'll join us and feel free to comment. I am thrilled to be joined by my guest, Keith Guernsey. And I want to tell you how I met Keith. So I had the privilege of interviewing Keith about his two-time cancer journey. Yes, he's a two-time cancer survivor, and he shared his story with our Cancer University community. His story will also be out as a podcast episode in the fall on the Cancer You Thriver podcast. But after I pressed the stop record button, Keith told me about another journey he had with obesity, and I was blown away. So I am thrilled to introduce Keith today and have him talk about his journey with obesity. So Keith, thank you so much for coming on my first LinkedIn Live and for going through all the technical difficulties that we had yesterday.
It's my pleasure, Andrea. Thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be here. You wanted me to talk a little bit about my journey from morbid obesity to healthy.
Yes.
And it starts back in 1996 when I met my lovely wife, Susan, through a blind ad in a newspaper. And they did have those before they had Match and Harmony. 96, we met. Shortly after we met in early 97, the doctor informed me that they had not gotten all of my cancer cells. I had a benign brain tumor called an acoustic neuroma. Told me he hadn't gotten all the surrounding tumor cells. The tumor had grown back a little bit smaller, but still, they wanted to go in and get it out again. And this time, they did a lot of scraping around the tumor cells to make sure that it was totally gone, and it was. But it left me with very, very severe headaches, and I couldn't walk, talk, crawl much. I couldn't lie down. All I could do was sit and eat. And I did. And I'm the type of guy who eats comfort food like pizza and Chinese food and cookies and cake and what have you. And I'm only 5'9", although I have a stocky build from playing football and hockey many years. But when I hit the scale at 340 pounds, I realized that I'd finally met the girl of my dreams, but we weren't going to have a long life together if I stayed at that weight.
Wow.
So I started
Was
exercise.
that the heaviest you'd ever been?
340. Oh yeah, by far.
By far. Okay.
My high school football playing weight was 210, just to give you
Okay. Wow.
an
That really
example.
that helps people. So a good
Yeah.
130 pounds overweight.
Yes. And I realized for me, slow and steady wins the race. So I started exercising, started walking. I bought a piece of equipment for our home, did a Stairmaster, and I did drop 50 pounds, not quickly. It took a few months, dropped 50, plateaued out, and then we got, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from Boston originally. And we got transferred down here to the South in Georgia back in 2006. And I still weighed about 290. And we retired in 2013 to an active adult community where there was a beautiful gym 300 yards from our home. And God told me it will only work if you get there and go in it and use it. So for 8 years, unless we were traveling, I have been in that gym every weekday morning at 5 o'clock. And I got in a good pulse pounding hour of cardio and weight training. And the weight just started coming off again, slowly.
Right.
It's 2 pounds a week, week after week after week. And it wasn't all that hard because in addition to that, I modified my behavior in terms of what I ate and when I ate, cut out snacks, cut down on portions, that type of thing. And all of a sudden, I was at, let's see, I was at about 200 pounds. Then on my second cancer battle, I did have to go into the hospital for an autologous stem cell transplant. And although I tried to eat regular meals, as everyone knows, hospital food is not exactly the greatest. And I
Right.
lost another 30. I lost another 30 pounds. Now, through the weight training and the cardio that I've done, I've gained back 10, and I am exactly where I want to be at 180 pounds. So I've lost a total of 160, and I can
Wow.
honestly say that I feel better and healthier mentally and physically at 69 years young than at any time since I stopped playing hockey at 28. And
Wow. Oh
that's
my
basically what it's
gosh.
been. I've kept it off for 4 years. I'm still in the gym every morning at 5 o'clock. And if we're on travel or something like that, I walk a lot. I do stretchy bands. I do dumbbells, and I just chase my dog around the house or walk her every day. Try to stay active as much as possible, and I it works for me. Um,
Keith,
so that's
that's fantastic. I want to go back to that first 50 pounds you lost.
okay.
Did you modify your diet in any way initially? And if so, what did you do? Because you said you were
I
eating
did.
comfort foods.
Yes. Well, I always still eat my pizza and Chinese food, but I've cut down the portions. When I was at 340, I could wolf down an entire pizza and wash it down with a 6 pack of Bud Light. So I've cut out the Bud Light in favor of apple juice or Diet Coke, and I'm good for only 2 slices at a time, which for me is perfect because when my wife makes one of her world famous homemade pizzas, I get 4 helpings out of it, 4 servings out of it, instead of eating a whole pizza. So yeah,
Okay, I
I
love
started
that.
modifying. I started modifying my behavior at that time.
Okay, so I just want to make a note of that for people. So you cut down portion size, you
Yes,
changed from drinking beer to drinking apple juice or soda. Is
yeah,
that how the first 50 pounds really came off, just from starting with what you were eating?
yes, yeah. In a large part, yes. Um, I've always had a slow metabolism, so I did what I needed to increase my metabolism by, with my workouts. And yes, that's how all the first 140 pounds came off. 50 when we lived up in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And like I say, I kind of plateaued out, if you will, for a year or two. And then once we retired and moved here, um, I did the same thing. I eat a lot more fruits and vegetables now than I ever did. I still enjoy pizza and Chinese food, but in much rarely, much more rare time frame, and much smaller portions.
Wow. So can you talk about you lost the 50 pounds and then you moved, you get to this community where a gym is readily available to you. I mean, how did you even start an exercise routine? How did you decide what to do? I heard you say strength training and cardio. I mean, how did you
Right.
even go about it? I know people would just love to know, how did you come to structure a routine that worked for you?
Yeah. It's very slowly. I had been, being a football or hockey player, I knew what I needed to do. Um, and one of the things I've seen a lot of people make mistakes. This is an active adult community, 55 and over. So when people 60, 70, 80, people start jumping on a machine and pedaling away or, go on a treadmill, start running. You really need to stretch out before
Mhm.
and after you work out. And I did a stretch for a few minutes, and then I did a bike. It's actually a double pedal bike. So there's feet pedals and there's arm pedals. So you're getting work in your arms and shoulders. And I do 35 minutes of that,
Wow.
between 35 and 45, depending on how I'm feeling that day. And then I do another 25 minutes or half an hour on um, lifting. But, unlike back in my football and hockey days when I did a lot of powerlifting, heavy weights, less reps. Now I do um, lower weights and a lot more reps. And just, I have a couple of guys that I work out with regularly, camaraderie. We talk about, what's going on in our community. We talk about sports and a little bit of politics. So that's kind of a sensitive subject these days. Um, but it goes by very, very quickly, that hour and plus. And I'm back here having breakfast, and getting cleaned up for the day. And then I start on writing my next bestseller.
I love it. I love it. So I am able to post comments to Facebook, and so I just kind of wrote down a couple of things. You said reduce portions. You changed your liquids, stretch before exercising, and I love that you said work out with friends because that
Yes,
does help. It goes by quickly.
absolutely, yes.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk
Okay.
about this body positivity movement. And I would love to share my screen, but I just don't trust the technology right now, given everything we went through
That's
yesterday.
cool. Yeah.
But in February, just to set this up, in February of this year, in 2021, Cosmo in the UK came out with 11 different covers. You can Google it, people, and
Mm-hmm.
11 different people. And it was called This Is Healthy. And it was all about how no matter what size or shape you are healthy. And again, I have no problem with people loving how they look and who they are. I do have a problem with a major media conglomerate suggesting or even saying outright, like they did, that obesity is healthy. And of these 11 covers that they did, 2 women were obese and 2 other women were definitely overweight by
Mm-hmm.
25 pounds or more. And so I did a LinkedIn post about this and I got a lot of pushback and a lot of people were mad at me, and et cetera, et cetera. So I would love to know what you think. How do you think this body positivity movement, and I do think it is definitely more toward women than it is men. Um, how do you think that movement is affecting the obesity epidemic?
Well, I don't know a lot about it, to be very honest with you, Andrea. But I think if you were to ask almost any medical professional worth their salt, they would tell you that being obese, depending on how obese you are, whether it's a man, a woman, is not truly, truly healthy,
Yep.
especially as we get older. I mean, if you're, a 25-year-old former football player and you've gained 50 pounds, well, and you're 6'2" or something, maybe that's not so bad. But, I think anybody who's obese as they age is um, going to have medical issues. I've read enough I haven't read specifically Cosmo or, read much about the body positivity movement. But again, I think, any medical professional will tell you that, especially as you age, depending on your body type, depending on your BMI index,
Yep.
um, they will tell you that it's just not healthy. And it shortens your life expectancy, from what I understand. It puts a strain on your heart, and nothing, positive, pun intended, can be beneficial in being obese, depending on a number of other factors. I mean, especially if you have other underlying health issues. I mean, for me, having cancer, um, I have to be very, very careful about what I eat and how much. And I just, you know, I would defer to medical professionals and say, any medical professional, any doctor will tell you it's not healthy for any number of reasons, especially as you get older.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, when I told a few doctors about this, that they hadn't seen these Cosmo covers, like I said, they only come out in the UK, they
Yeah.
were appalled. They were totally appalled. However, I do know many, many doctors who have trouble publicly talking about obesity, even using the word obesity. They will
Mhm.
say instead, they will say that person has a metabolic disorder. They don't like to, they just shy away from the word obesity. They don't even like to
Yeah.
talk about food as an addiction. And I do believe you can become addicted to food, just like you can become addicted to
No
any,
question. No
yeah,
question.
anything else. So, there are influencers now who are popular, who are making their living by promoting obesity. And I just wonder, what do you think about that? So just drilling down a little bit more, that there are
Well,
people out
are
there
these
doing that.
yeah, are these influencers medical professionals? Do they have a medical degree?
Oh,
Do they
no.
spend, well, there you go. I mean, you have to, in my opinion, you have to defer to an expert, which is a doctor. Um, I think back to the doctors that I've had, and I've been very fortunate to have the best medical care in the world for all my brain surgery and my cancers. Um, and if I were to round them all up, all half a dozen of them, and say, is it healthy to be obese? They would say, absolutely not. And they would cite, like I say, um, back issues, strain on the heart, especially as we age. You know, I just, I can't believe that any medical professional worth their weight would say it's healthy to be, depending on how obese, depending, there are a number of other factors, underlying other medical
Right.
conditions, that type of thing. Um, I can't believe any doctor would say it's okay.
Yeah. So we have our first comment. Shara or Shara, thank you so much. It's really in depth, but I'm going to share a lot of it. So if you think body positivity is causing obesity, then you're unfortunately in a very unhealthy space. We are not saying body positivity is causing obesity. What I'm saying is body positivity um, is saying obesity is okay. It's not causing it, of course not, but it is saying that obesity is acceptable. That's what I'm saying. She says the body positivity movement itself has nothing to do with physical health and everything to do with mental health. I'm going to disagree. And then we're going to let Keith comment on this as well. She talks about how, in addition to fat bodies, there are other bodies under this umbrella. Yes, absolutely. The movement does not promote eating more or less. It's simply a revolutionary movement that teaches people to love and accept their bodies and to fight against the thin white narrative that's been embedded in our society. A person who is fat is not automatically unhealthy, and a person who is thin is not automatically healthy. So I'm going to push back here and then let Keith give his opinion. We would never say a person who is anorexic is healthy. We would never say that. So why are we saying that people who are obese are healthy? And when I say we, I'm talking about the media. And that's why I believe that the body positivity movement has kind of pushed in that direction. Again, I'm not talking about other types of bodies. I am talking specifically about obesity. No one would ever say that anorexia is healthy. Keith, what do you think to this person's comments?
Well, first of all, again, this is just my opinion based on my years of experience as a patient and having had wonderful medical care. And again, I would defer to experts like doctors. I understand the mental health issue, but I would defer to experts in the field, doctors, And I know the half a dozen who've given me world-class treatment would tell you it's not healthy to be obese, depending on, a number of other factors. How obese are they? Number two, do they have any other underlying medical conditions? Number three,
Yeah.
how old are they? I think
Mm,
as we age, it's more and more important to get a handle on, our overall health. And again, I'm not an expert on this body positivity movement, but I think it is irresponsible journalism for Cosmo to say being obese is okay, because any medical professional, any doctor I've ever talked to will tell you that it's not.
yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to make a note of some important things you said. Um, you said three very important things. How obese are you? How old are you? And do you have any other underlying health conditions? Those are all three very important factors.
Right.
And I also made a note in the Facebook Live that, yes, these opinions are our opinions, my personal, Keith's personal opinions, but I
Right.
brought Keith on as a guest because he has lived this experience. And I agree with him when he says that you need to refer to your medical professional, but I don't know a single doctor who would say obesity is healthy. I don't.
Neither
Just
do I.
yeah,
No,
just as
definitely
they
not.
wouldn't say, oh, anorexia is healthy. No one would ever say that either. So that's where we're coming from today. But I do want to thank Shara again for this very in-depth and well thought out comment. I'm going to say one last thing here. She said, obesity cannot kill you. I'm sorry to say. Medical issues that stem from obesity could be unhealthy, but guess what? Those same medical issues can stem from being thin. I'm going to push back again, then we'll ask Keith what he thinks. Obesity is linked to 13 different kinds of cancer. I am not making that up. That comes directly from the CDC. They have posted articles on it. There have been studies on it. There's this beautiful infographic about it. That is just fact. Obesity is linked to 13 different types of cancer. It's also linked to a lot of other different medical conditions, but I just happen to be in the cancer space. So I'm going to disagree with you. Obesity can kill you because it leads to these other medical conditions that are very serious. Keith, back to you. What do you think?
No question. I agree with you 100%, Andrea. And I would challenge this young lady or anyone else, pick up the phone, ask your doctor. I mean, ask a medical professional. Is obesity healthy or unhealthy? And I'll guarantee what they're going to say, because of what you said. It can lead to cancer, heart disease, back problems, any one of a number of medical issues that are not healthy and that are not good for you.
Yeah. I just don't understand how we got here, but we did, and I'm just going to refresh to see if there are any more comments,
Okay.
which we totally appreciate. Yes. Okay, Shar. Let's see. So Shar added, yes, she did. So I just want to share with everyone, anorexia is the eating disorder. Perhaps you're referring to binge eating disorder rather than obesity. You can be unhealthy at any weight. The movement is not promoting obesity. It's promoting self-love while treating your body with kindness. I don't know who you've stumbled upon on social media that gave you this idea. Also, the opposite of obesity is not anorexia. One is the eating disorder again, and one is not. It's all about headspace. By the way, have you checked how many types of cancer are linked to other bodies? Okay. I I love her. She's giving us so much to work with
Yeah,
here.
really.
Uh, um, I would say that people who are morbidly obese do have some kind of eating disorder of some kind, whether it's binge eating or whether it's just an addiction to food. A lot of us have an addiction or issues surrounding food. And I disagree. I do think the movement in some way is promoting obesity. I think when you have an influencer who is morbidly obese and who is, as an influencer, directly influences young women, I think that's a problem. Let's see. The opposite obesity is not anorexia. Yeah, not necessarily, I guess. But again, I'm going to disagree and say obesity is maybe it's not classified as an eating disorder, but certainly it's linked to some kind of eating issues. And you mentioned, Shar, before about headspace and this being mental health. Well, again, that goes back to having an addiction to food. And many people who are morbidly obese don't keep the weight off unless they actually address that addiction to food and get some mental health services behind it. So, Keith, what do you think?
Well, I would agree with you 100%. Again, I will go back to my situation as an example. Um, when Susan and I first met, I'll tell
Yeah,
you a funny
please.
story. I had been a bachelor for 17 years. And somehow, when we first met, the subject got around to nutrition. And she said, "You know what the four food groups are, don't you?" And I said, "Of course I do. Pizza, Chinese food, Bud Light, and Ben and Jerry's." And as I mentioned, I've cut out the Bud Light pretty much. I might have 2 beers, 4 beers a month, and that's it tops. Um, Ben and Jerry's maybe 3 times, 4 times a year. Pizza, I have my 2 slices a day, and that's it. But I make sure that I'm getting plenty of exercise. I mean, I did 45 minutes of cardio this morning. I and it's only 11 o'clock, and I've already walked over 3 miles today.
Wow.
3.3 miles today. So um, everyone's got their own viewpoint, and I respect that. But I would always defer to a medical professional. If I took this Cosmo cover to my doctor the next time I went and asked her, "Is this healthy?" I'll guarantee you she would say no. No
Yeah.
question, no question in my mind about that. And yes, there is a mental health component, which is why, you know, it's important to, not try to modify your behavior 100% and lose weight um, a ton at a time.
Right.
Um, we had a friend who went on some fad diet and lost, I don't know, 25 pounds in a month. And that's, any doctor will tell you that's way too much and that weakens your heart.
Yeah.
Um, so, it's for me, and again, this is just my own personal opinion. It's all about behavior modification, and it's about, slow and steady wins the race. Depending on how morbidly obese you are, you're not going to lose the weight overnight. So you want to lose a pound or two a week, and you got to stick with it. I mean, it took me, this didn't happen to me overnight. It took me 20 years, to lose 160 pounds, and I've kept it off for 4 years, and I'll keep it off till the day that they put me in the ground, so to speak. But um, you really have to, make a commitment to modify your behavior. And, again, I would say that if anyone would like to correspond with me, I have a 6-point plan that I use that's kind of tailored to cancer survivors, but anyone can use it. If anyone wants to reach me, they can follow me on Twitter. Um, they can find me on Facebook. They can email me at thegurns2005 at yahoo.com. And I'm happy to talk to anyone and give them. And again, these are my ideas, and this is what has worked for me. And it may not work for you, but it's a good framework to get started with.
Keith, give me that email one more time so I can put it in the chat for
Okay.
people.
Yeah, I'm going to say it and I'm going to spell it because, as I've said in the past, they tell me that even though we've been down here 15 years, I still have my Boston accent. It's the Guerns 2005 at yahoo.com. That's T Tom, H Henry, E Edward, G George, U Unique, R Robert, N Nancy, S Sugar 2005 at yahoo.com.
And let me read it back to you. So it's THEGURNS 2005 at yahoo.com.
Perfect. That's
All right.
it.
So I just want to put that in the comments
Yeah,
so
and
people,
I'm happy
yeah.
to correspond with anyone at any time. If they want my 6-point bullet plan that's worked for me, happy to send that out to anyone at any time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And
My pleasure.
Shara, I'm gonna says, I want to thank your guest for saying that this is his opinion and not fact, and that's the key to all of this. And yes, these are our opinions, but Shara, as both Keith and I said, we don't believe a medical professional would say that obesity is healthy. Perhaps a medical professional would, but we don't think so. So thank you so much for joining us for this LinkedIn Live, for bearing with our technical difficulties. And Keith, thank you so much for, again,
Oh,
sharing
my
your
pleasure.
story and sharing this
My
part of your
pleasure.
story. And now I know what the new 4 food groups are. Pizza.
That doesn't mean you should try them.
I know pizza. Well,
That doesn't mean you should try them.
I don't love Bud Light. Okay, but pizza, yes. Chinese food, yes. Ben and Jerry's, yes, yes, yes. But I can't even eat ice cream anymore, so it makes me really sad. But I want to thank you so much, and
My pleasure.
we are going to have another LinkedIn Live now that we think we got the technical difficulties figured out. LinkedIn Live next week, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, going back to Wednesdays. And we're going to be talking to Linda Van Horn all about your medical records. Can you get access to them? And what does HIPAA even mean? So we'll be digging deep into that. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. And be sure to contact Keith because he can really, really help you, whether you're a cancer patient or caregiving for someone or you're a cancer survivor. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.